Hello, welcome to Romans 118 Media. I'm your host, Eddie V. It's good to be here with you on this Thursday. Got a good show for you today. Going to talk about a couple things. I just want to kind of reiterate the mission statement of this podcast. I was thinking about that today. And then also I want to get into, it's going to be related to the mission statement, but Catholic Incorporated, Catholic Inc. And also talking about humility from our very own, obviously, Dr. Ralph Martin and The Fulfillment of All Desire. By the way, I feel like I should be mentioning to get that book, to read it. I think having a physical copy, I'm not getting paid or anything for this, but to have a physical copy of it is great. And to constantly be, because it's a big book, but every day to be reading a little bit. And I think even reading a little bit is actually better than kind of trying to swallow it. The first time I read it, I just consumed the whole thing. I didn't remember anything. I just knew it was amazing. But those are kind of the 2 or 3 topics we're going to cover today. So the first with the mission statement, or what this podcast is about. I think I've talked about it a little bit, but I really want to affect culture. I want to be able to talk about whatever I want to talk about, specifically about the culture. But I guess it's kind of being transformed to not just the culture, and that's a very broad term, but talking about things that can actually help people in general, and then Catholics specifically. There's a lot of, what would you describe it as? Lies. There's a lot of lies. There's a lot of manipulation, a lot of psyops going on in the world at large, the secular world at large, and in the Catholic world. It's constantly going on. And I just feel a passion, a desire to relentlessly pursue the truth, discuss the truth. So that's what this podcast is for. But I want it to be practical. I want to talk about things that people can actually do in their life. Hopefully, hence, that is the reason I'm talking about elite human capital. It's not necessarily a Catholic thing, but I think it can speak to Catholics about things they can do, and maybe critiques I have of it that is of a Catholic critique, Catholic nature, of those things that I still think are very helpful. And yeah, so in this, I mean, this life is very short, it's very brief, and the amount of manipulation that goes on, people, and maybe this is prideful of me to say, but people do not have other people's best interests in mind. And I think this extends to Catholic Inc. sometimes. And I know this might be a little broad or unhelpful, but I think a lot of Catholic Inc. is just slop. It's just pure slop. I'm talking from Matt Fradd to all the way to like Ascension Press, all these different things. I think most of it is not very practical. And most people, I think, outgrow those things after conversion, or after, a little bit after conversion to the Catholic faith. I think those things are very good, like Catholic Answers, Bishop Barron, all this stuff, all these people. I think they can be helpful and great when you're discerning, like, the history of the church, or the philosophy of the Catholic Church, or discerning it against Protestantism, Eastern Orthodoxy, Catholicism, even some more niche things like Mormonism, Islam, not really Judaism, which is kind of interesting, but those types of things. I think it's very helpful for those things. But when it gets beyond that, which most people, if you're trying to live a Christ-like life, you want to serve God, you want to do more, you want to go beyond just like sitting in a pew on Sundays, it's going to break free of those things. And after those things, there's not a lot of people talking about what's next. And that's where I'm really critical of Catholic Inc. in that sense, because they are really unhelpful for the most part. I'm sure, there's guys I think of that have a couple things down. Timothy Gordon is a good example. I think he does an amazing job with the feminism and family unit stuff. And there's probably other guys, I'm kind of blanking, honestly, on other people. And I wouldn't even consider those people, those individuals, Catholic Inc. Those are people on the fringe. They're kind of kept on the fringe. Whereas Catholic Inc., and this is the same, Brian Holdsworth is another example. He's talking about how he's never heard a homily in his life about hell or relating to hell. And I think that's like encapsulates Catholic Inc. is like there's topics that they will not cover that I think are super important. Like is there a person talking to young Catholic men about how to direct their lives outside of like joining the Knights of Columbus and, praying in a general sense? They don't even go into specifics. Gabby After Hours, I will shout out. I think he does a great job because he's super popular, but he goes into very practical everyday things that any person, any Catholic, any person can do to improve their life, improve their prayer life, whatever he's talking about. Whereas Bishop Barron or like Matt Fradd, Matt Fradd's more of an interviewer, so maybe he has that excuse. But they're just talking about very generic, unhelpful things, in my opinion. They were very helpful for me when I'm converting, right? Why do Protestants do this? Why do Catholics do that? All that jazz, all that good stuff. But that's a very short period of your Catholic life. And for me, I wish there was someone who was willing to talk about anything when I was like first coming to the church, like after a year in the church. What do I do now? Because it's so convoluted after that. And the one place you can always go to is the saints, but then there's even no one saying, except for the popes. The popes are awesome in this, saying like, read the saints. Everyone's like, read my book. read my thoughts on these things. Read Trent Horn's thoughts on this or that subject, instead of just being like, read this church document, read this saint, read this pope on this thing. I mean, I'm sure that happens, but in a general sense, I don't feel like it's happening. So that's the reason for the podcast. And I want to get into everything. And that's why, I'm begging people, send in your questions, comments. Some people tell me to talk about this or that thing. And sometimes they are interesting topics. It's just, I don't think they're like general historical stuff I'll get into, but it's not the main function of the show. I will talk about historical things if I think it will be helpful for someone's life, but I don't want to I'm not like this Jimmy Akin. I'm just exploring aliens and giants in the Antarctic just for fun. If he wants to do that, that's great. That's not the point of this podcast. And I'll get into conspiracies, but conspiracies that I think people need to know because they're living their everyday life. They want to improve the culture. They want to fight against evil now. Then I'll talk about it. So that's kind of my thing about the mission statement of this podcast and Catholic Inc. I was motivated to talk about this because I was watching this Andrew Tate interview. If you don't, a lot of people hate Andrew Tate. I really love him. I know he's done a lot of evil things in the past, maybe still doing evil things. I just think he is just a courageous, honest, bold person. He's Muslim, so I don't like that. He had this webcam business with these girls. I don't like that. He doesn't have it anymore as far as I know, but he's very brave. And I think he's braver than most Catholics, which is kind of interesting. And I was watching this interview. He's gone to prison again. And he's talking about how like, he's just going to fight till the death and say the truth. And he's doing it for like almost his own beef that he has with the system as it is. So imagine how much more we should do if we're doing it for the King of the universe. And that's what I want. that's part of the mission statement, is like, I want people to go Andrew Tate on this world, but for the Lord of the universe. Andrew Tate's doing it for almost himself or his family or his own discipline or principles. How about we do even more than him for Christ? How about we just suffer for Christ? That's what I'm looking at. And honestly, I will defend Andrew Tate. I really like him. And it's every time I look at stuff, people are saying what I think, and I'm open to being proven wrong. They're just saying like open lies about him. It's crazy. People like already accept that he raped all these women, even though I haven't seen a shred of evidence. So that's just very frustrating. That's kind of, besides the point. We can talk about Andrew Tate if you want. I think he has a lot of great things to say. I also think he has a lot of stuff that I honestly just wanted to convert to Catholicism. That would be amazing. I want everyone to, obviously, but yeah, that's that. And then I wanted to talk about humility. So that's that first subject, talking about humility. We're continuing Dr. Ralph Martin talking about humility. We just got past detachment and what detachment is for. Humility is There was a saying, I forgot who it was, where they're like, humility, humility, humility. It's probably like all of them, honestly. Humility is going to be so important, but there's so much vague talk about humility. What's the vague definition you always hear? Humility is having the correct knowledge of yourself and the correct knowledge of God, which is a great definition, I think. Knowing the truth about yourself, knowing the truth about God, that is humility. I think that's true. But what does that look like practically? That is the key. I don't just want people to know the definition or how to describe it, how to act it. And one way I always lock in on it, which I think Dr. Ralph Martin, very beautifully ties in St. Bernard, St. Francis de Sales, talking about this, is if someone has humility, they are not concerned with being humiliated. Let me say that again. If someone has humility, they are not concerned about being humiliated. Humiliation. You get embarrassed. Someone says something and that makes you blush, that makes you angry. Why would they say that about me? Or they made me look like an idiot. They made me look so stupid. The humble person, the person with humility, does not allow that to affect them. They are willing to be humiliated for what is right and just, right? Believe it's St. Peter talking about in the Bible, in his epistles, like suffer for what is right. So we don't want to be humiliated for what is wrong. We want to do what is right. But if we're doing what is right, if we're following God, we should not be concerned about being humiliated, about people scorning us or despising us. Think of the passion. What is our Lord showing us? He took on the humiliation and he did not strike back. He did not counter their humiliation with words and threats and violence. He accepted it. He embraced it. And he did not deserve those things. How much more infinitely more do we deserve humiliation than our Lord? Our Lord went through it. And I see most Catholics, most people in general, someone says a little thing against us, and it's immediately like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that. And getting upset, getting sad, getting all woke. Why don't you? And it's important. And Dr. Ralph Martin talks about this. It's important if someone lies about us to correct it in a calm, collect, reasonable manner. But if no one accepts that, go about your business and don't let it affect you. We have to be willing to be humiliated for doing the right thing. We must do the right, do the good. And after that, it's up for God to allow humiliation to strike us, to destroy our pride. So the next time someone said, like, the other day, multiple times, I'm balding. I probably mentioned it. And I have these young people constantly, badgering me, talking about it. Oh, you're balding, bald this, bald that. And it's humiliating, but like my life is going to end. Their life is going to end. Am I going to snap at them? Am I going to be all upset about it? In that moment, I have a choice between humility and pride. Pride is like, I'm going to come after these kids. I'm going to come after these other people, these people making fun of me. And humility is going to look like, it's not going to bother me at all. It's a fact. First of all, I am balding. So it's just the truth. And then to the extent that it like makes me uglier or it makes me lesser or something in their eyes, who cares? And some of the saints even talking about is like, when someone insults us, it's probably true. If someone tries to bring us down, it's like, whatever. I remember my death. I remember I'm going to die. I remember who I am. I remember who God is. I know where my worth comes from. Let them humiliate me. Let them try. But let us not let it get to us. This is what I love to see from a lot of people, and myself included, is let's be humiliated for the sake of Christ and for his kingdom. And that's just one part of it. There's a lot of more practical aspects of humility we can talk about. But I think that's the big one that I see is like, what are words going to do to you? If someone lies about you, someone slanders you, if someone is just telling untruths, it's our duty to correct them in certain extents. But if that, they don't care what we say, most people aren't going to care what you say. It's like, are you going to let it affect you? Are you going to let it make you do negative things, things you shouldn't do? No, just let it go. Let it pass, let it brush off your shoulders, and have that humility, have that down to earth mentality. Remember your death. I love that. It's a good thing you can practice probably every day depending on your work situation. Just practice that humility. Don't be coming back at someone for your own reputation, for your own grandizement. Have that peace of Christ. Know who you are, know who God is. So yeah, that's the biggest thing I want to talk about. So those are the topics for today. A shorter episode. They're getting shorter. I want to briefly talk about next week. I have with work. I might be able to, or I might not be able to do as many shows. I just want to let you know. I'm still going to try to do a lot, but just to warn you, just to let you know, I'm not sure how many I'm going to get to. So, but we're still going to be doing the show. We're still going. We're still doing the rebranding. So hopefully things are in the works and it'll continue. So please like, comment, subscribe, share. Let me know what you think about the show. God bless you. God keep you. And I will see you on the next episode. Goodbye.